Men are getting married at less rates than ever before. And this conversation came up when Dennis Prager sat down with David Pakman and they had this back and forth. David Pakman kind of leans more on the leftist position of a lot of these topics. And Dennis Prager, outright conservative. And he is not a Christian, but he is Jewish. And the topic of marriage came up. And it was amazing to see Dennis Prager school David Pakman on why marriage is different and why marriage is good and why folks moving away from marriage is not a good thing, okay? And so to see the light bulb come off, to see him finally back away and not push back was amazing. This whole conversation is really good if you guys haven't seen it. I appreciate anyone that's willing to talk to people that disagree with them. And again, I don't agree with Dennis Prager on everything. I've been critical of some of his views about pornography on the channel, but I do find this conversation really interesting because I think it has great impacts, as I just talked about in my previous video, with all the verified, goofy things that are right in front of us in our society. Okay? All the conversation after this point is talking about how the country has went further and further left in some of its ideology. Now, I can point you to some data that I believe the country is now shifting more conservative and traditional in some of its values. But in this specific topic, this seems to still be a stronghold with a lot of people. And David Pakman's going to demonstrate this, okay? Watch this.
In American history, that poll is an example. Here's another one. Okay. 25% of Americans aged 40 and over have never been married.
25% of Americans aged 40 have never been married. Okay, that's a big percent, okay? That's a big percent. Now, watch David Pakman try to push back on this. Now, again, this is different. If you're a Christian and you're like, I was waiting for God to send me someone and I never met someone, that's different than his position, okay? Very different than his position, so just bear with me.
As opposed to 8% in 1980. We went from 8 to 25% in 40 years.
Wow. Can we talk about that one a little more?
Now, he thinks he's like going to come with this like enlightened perspective on it that's going to shock all of us. Listen to what he says.
That one I find interesting. I'm not 40, but I'm in a long-term relationship. I have a baby. I'm not married.
Isn't it interesting that the people on the far left and people on the far right, specifically the red pill people, both don't want to get married? Don't you find that kind of interesting? People on the far left, I don't want to get married. People on the far right, I don't want to get married, right? And very different reasons, but their talking points are kind of the same. Right? Listen.
It's a conscious decision I've made evaluating what is marriage in 2023. Is that the sort of contract I'm interested in? Do I need that
contract? It sounds like every guy on Fresh and Fit.
To mediate my relationship with my girlfriend? Are there protections that I find necessary? I don't know that for me and for so many other people I know that are probably in the group you're sort of describing here. I don't know that it's any kind of moral commentary or a commentary on the nature of relationships, but more about, for most of human history, this sort of contract didn't exist. There was a period where
he went to most of human history, he was married, but they didn't have a contract where the state was involved. This is so good.
It peaked. I think it was the 50s or 60s or 70s. It seems to be in decline. It's sort of a blip. I don't know that it's that indicative of the broader point you're trying to make, Dennis.
Now watch. This is so good. This is so good. And just notice Dennis Prager's response and notice the lack of a response from David.
It's funny you should say this. I went to a wedding last Sunday night and my wife just spoke to the woman who got married. Yeah. And they had lived together for about 4 years. And she said, everything feels different.
Oh, everything feels different. I wonder why.
And I always explain to people, you use the word girlfriend. So you'll just have to take my word for it.
Please.
That you would be conveying a very different image of yourself and your relationship if you said my wife.
I agree.
Okay. I think that is a worthy commitment that human beings should make. I would like you have a child, I believe.
Yes, indeed.
I'd like a child to believe mommy and daddy are husband and wife.
Hello.
Not just boyfriend and girlfriend.
Hello. Oh, see, he got him, right? Who wants to grow up saying, oh, mommy and daddy, just boyfriend and girlfriend? It's silly. This whole conversation, boyfriend and girlfriend, is for ages of between 15 and 20, right? Like, what are we talking about?
Child to believe mommy and daddy are husband and wife, not just boyfriend and girlfriend.
Come on.
It's better for the kid, better for you, and better for the world.
But why do you think then that this marriage thing was the sort of more prevalent status for such a tiny blip in human history, and now it's already diminishing?
Well, I mean, the Bible was written 3,000 years ago and everybody got married. I don't know why you call it a blip in history.
He's acting like people didn't start getting married till the last couple hundred years. People have been married all of history. Just because they didn't have a contract with the state doesn't mean that marriage wasn't a thing, Guy.
It's universal. People got married in virtually every civilization.
Well, so if we consider modern humanity 250,000 years, for most of time, humans were not getting married.
All right. Look, if I can't talk about pre-Stone Age or pre-Bronze Age man.
Okay, fair.
Okay, since the Bronze Age, people have gotten married.
This man said the Neanderthals and the hunters and gatherers that were around 250,000 years ago, they weren't getting married. It's like, dude, modern civilization, past 3,000 years, folks have been married. What are you talking about?
And you know what? We've done better. By every metric, marriage makes a better person and a better world.
Yeah, what I see is commitment between two parents and probably a fair amount of economic stability are really the ideal circumstances. But I think I don't want to get away from your broader point, Dennis, which I think is you're recognizing the reality of the situation.
And I'm fighting it.
And you're fighting it.
And I'm fighting it because I believe that graduating high school, getting a job, and getting married and getting married before you have a baby, that is almost the perfect recipe for a better life.
But going more broad on the other culture war issues I mentioned.
And that's it. He got nothing to say. What do you say to that? That's empirically proven. Marriage before the freaking carriage. Graduate high school, get a full-time job, get married before you have kids. 98% of people who do that break out of the cycle of poverty. Why am I talking about the cycle of poverty? Because I come from the cycle of poverty. Because I come from welfare, government assistance, all those things. You get that sequence wrong. And you're going to be facing some serious economic ramifications. That's just the truth of it. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about that. We see, according to the Bible, that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask Him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when He answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used from my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. And here's the thing, with the hope to create a prayer movement, we've made the PDF version of this prayer journal completely free. So to get the PDF of our prayer journal completely for free, go to blessgodpdf.shop now.